Welcome back to Bullet Points, everyone. I hope your September's going well. I almost said good there, but Aaron and I are both sticklers for proper English despite being from Hick Land Midwest. We have an amazing rabbit hole show for you tonight. Oh, September has given us some really interesting gun news gold. First off, we've got New Mexican Governor Michelle Grisham trying out a 30-day trial of tyranny in her state. Liberty Safe, not really interested in protecting people's privacy. There's quite a rabbit hole there because it goes way further than the original story. And to break up the cluster, we have a question this time from Aaron as part of our Ricochet round. All of that, and I'm sure more to come right after the intro.
It is September, and the last time we had an episode of Bullet Points, you weren't drinking, and it is now not August. So, what are we drinking tonight?
Oh, for real, I am drinking water still, but I am having some bullet bourbon.
Bullet bourbon for Bullet Points, how apt.
Absolutely, and I honestly hadn't even thought about that, but we'll certainly take it. I'm still not drinking that much, but it is nice to have the alcohol back. I'm again just trying to adopt like drinking maybe 2-3 times a week. I've been drinking a little more the last few days because I actually took a few days off from work, so celebrating that. And
yeah,
we're not going to get into any more of that, but there's some stuff coming on the channel, and I'm not going to give anything away, but we kind of blew our minds at Llama Ranch the other day, and there's something really cool coming, and I'm still struggling to believe what we personally witnessed with one of our experiments. So we're going to just jump right into this. I almost said dump because it is a dumpster fire. New Mexico Governor Michelle Grisham has decided that she's going to say the quiet part out loud, and everybody, liberals, conservatives, pro-gun, anti-gun people, they're all jumping down her throat and they're coming out against her. There are some of the most unlikely of allies the gun community are finding. The governor of New Mexico has decided that through her powers of medical emergency, she's going to declare an executive order and ban conceal and open carry in the city of Albuquerque. But I'm going to turn it over to Aaron because he's got a much more level head on especially this topic. And Aaron, please take it away.
The New Mexico governor has decided that she's going to temporarily pause, in her words, the Second Amendment. As a result of the gun epidemic, she was declaring a public health emergency. As a result of this public health emergency, she was banning all open and concealed carry in the city of Albuquerque. First off, she tries to qualify her original statement. She says it's not a ban, it's a temporary pause. That sounds like a ban to me.
It's just temporarily banning. It's just a temporary ban.
It's temporarily banned.
We're trying it out.
Yeah. Her statement is essentially like me saying, I love eating, so I'm going to eat whenever I want to. And she says, well, you can't eat dinner. Well, I'm hungry. Well, I'm not forbidding you from eating. I'm just temporarily saying you can't eat dinner. Well, that still means I'm not going to be able to eat. I mean, like I said earlier, tyranny is tyranny, right? It's either on or it's off.
I would argue that you're struggling to come up with a good analogy to this because there isn't a good analogy because this is just so stupid.
When you are a liberal governor suspending constitutional rights and you have CNN coming after you and calling out your BS and the level of unconstitutionality of your actions, not to mention David Hogg coming after the governor as well. The whole left, it seems, is losing their mind.
It's not just them. The sheriff of Bernalillo has come out against this and said they aren't going to enforce it. The State Patrol of New Mexico has said we're not going to reinforce this. Why did a picture of Justin Trudeau just come up on my screen? Speaking of another tyrant, Ted Lieu, I think that's, or is it Lau, senator, very, very left-leaning senator for New Mexico. Even the state attorney general, Raul Torres, who is very pro gun safety, very pro gun restrictions, came out and said, we are not going to dedicate resources to this because this is unconstitutional. I mean, a judge this last week, I don't want to be taking too much away from you here, but a judge came out and put a temporary restraining order on this until they could hear the court case because it's clearly a violation. Just like the restraining orders against the pistol brace ban, those don't just get handed out willy-nilly. They get put on, or they get granted when it's like, yeah, this seems pretty England here. This seems pretty pre 1776 here, people. Let's not be doing this until we can get a good idea if this is actually constitutional.
The thing that has been really blowing me away is I was reading a transcript of the interview between a CNN reporter and the New Mexico governor, and it just it gets worse the more you read it. One of the first ones in the transcript, the question that the interviewer asks is, "Do you think you're on solid constitutional ground here?" And the governor answered that she, quote, "wouldn't do it if she didn't think she had the right. Period. I have the right." She says that with the narrow reading of the Constitution, anything such as what she enumerates as, universal background checks, waiting periods, red flag laws, prohibitions for straw purchases, she says that none of those would have been deemed constitutional, yet today all of them are. She thinks that previous infringements on the Second Amendment are grounds for her to infringe on the Second Amendment.
Like, okay, so that kind of goes back to something Gavin Newsom did, or said, excuse me, when he was first introducing his 28th Amendment that would restrict and reel in and help realize what the true nature of the Second Amendment. And he said 18-year-olds aren't allowed to buy or drink alcohol. So why should they be allowed to have a gun? And I'm thinking, who made it illegal for an 18-year-old to drink alcohol? So you're saying that because the government has passed this law, it is completely within its rights to do or pass this law.
After all the backlash and all the people jumping down her throat saying, "Hey, you can't do this," she goes, "Yes, I can. After all, I am only making it illegal in public parks and playgrounds where children and their families gather." First off, that's not what you said, Governor. That is not what you said. Okay. You were putting a temporary pause, aka ban, on all concealed and open carrying. You're trying to walk it back and say, "Oh, no. I only meant it's in these two areas." Governor, it either infringes on my rights or it doesn't. It infringes on your rights very little. And that is what you're essentially saying here. We're going to take these tiny little steps to make it seem like we're not doing anything of consequence. But over time, those little tiny baby steps, they build up. One more point on this story before we move on. There are tons of people in our jails that have been charged with being a prohibited person in possession of a firearm. And if you look at the drug epidemic over the last several decades, putting tons of restrictions on people's ability to purchase, manufacture, and distribute drugs has worked very well.
That was sarcasm if you didn't catch it. You're telling me, Aaron, that the criminals don't care about if it's a crime or not. If they want to have a gun, they're going to still possess a gun. That's what you're telling me?
I think so.
If we were to allow this executive tyranny to stand in place in Albuquerque, the only people then that would not be carrying guns are the people that we didn't have to worry about in the first place. And therefore, we have disarmed the good guys with guns. And the only people left unopposed then are the bad guys that don't care about laws, that don't care that killing a person is wrong, carjacking is wrong, stealing from the local liquor store is wrong. Yeah, that would go really well, Aaron. We're done with this topic. Let's move on. I need something a little more hypothetical to get my blood pressure back down. Aaron, you have prepared a question. We have finally come up with a name for our question of the month.
The Ricochet round. I wanted to get into some of the more, like Matt said, the hypothetical, and I wanted to go forward in time slightly, because when it comes to technology, legislation, anything in those areas of discussion, it becomes very contentious. And when you now add firearms into those discussions, it becomes even more contentious. So something I want to bring up is some of the possible ethical implications of what have been coined as smart guns, whether biometric security mechanisms, whether it's trigger locking mechanisms. I want to get into some of the different methods in which people have developed, like I said, what have been coined as smart guns, and the implications of their development, use, and distribution when it comes to, I think the biggest thing is gun safety.
I assume then you saw that prototype smart gun that was given for testing by, I think, one or two people out there.
I've not seen that specific instance, but it's something that, looking through Reddit and Facebook and X and all that, that's something that's come up just in concept. And I wanted to see what your thoughts on it are.
It's actually here, and it's already caused some people to ask basically that question. I'm actually kind of torn on this. I have a definitive answer that I will fall back on, but I'll start out with we'll call it the devil's advocate side. If you don't know me, I love sci-fi. I grew up with Star Wars. I grew up with Star Trek. I grew up with a little bit of Battlestar Galactica, Stargate, all that stuff. And I just love the sci-fi genre. I really like the scientific side of a biometric weapon, something that you can have that is set to you, that once you pick it up, let's say you have some sort of like smart glass that it could then interface with, and it has all your settings. It knows the kind of your shooting behavior. I really like that idea that it could maybe adjust for a handicap down the road. I'm not saying auto aim or aimbotting here, but I really do like the idea of having a smart weapon and I can honestly see the benefits of something that doesn't work unless the person that it is keyed to uses it. That could honestly help, especially with gun theft. I could go into a couple other things that I think are really cool about the idea of a smart firearm or a smart gun, but I think this is where I have to stop playing devil's advocate. Anytime you introduce a bit of software, a bit of technology to something that's mechanical, you are exponentially increasing the risk of failure. So let's say that a cop has a biometrically locked weapon. They have to pull their gun. What if something happens in the biometric scan? What if his palm is so sweaty that it doesn't read it and that gun doesn't fire? All of a sudden, that cop is dead. What happens when these smart guns can start being hacked? There's no such thing as an unhackable device.
When you say that there's no such thing as an unhackable program, we're talking to you, Dominion voting systems.
When it comes to smart guns with the tech just built directly into the firearm, I don't think it's a good idea, man. Now, do I think that biometric stuff is good for certain things? Sure, like the trigger locks that you can get for a gun that you have on display or they have at the gun stores where it's just over the trigger guard. You could have a biometric scanner there, but you still need a backup key. Okay, one more thing that I just thought of, and I'll turn it over to you because I definitely want to hear where you're coming from on this.
I hope it's not what I'm going to talk about because I have some points.
Let's say there's a home invasion situation, or there's an active shooter situation, and there just so happens to be a law enforcement officer that goes down. Tragedy, I know. But there's maybe a school staff member there right by the officer. They have the ability to grab the gun and maybe end the life of the bad guy. If that gun is biometrically locked or coded only to that law enforcement officer, that gun is going to be useless to the good guy. I just see this as being a hindrance more than a benefit to society. But that's, again, just me. I think a gun needs to stay stupid. You can have the optics and certain accessories or attachments be smart, but the gun itself, I think, needs to be stupid. That's kind of my take. I think it's a fascinating topic, and I'm really glad you brought this up. Aaron, what are your take? What's your take on this?
So I would agree with you on the novelty of it, the technological advances that are coming along with firearms. I think they're absolutely fascinating, and maybe someday something will come up that will change this. But for now, I have 3 words for you, and it kind of goes back into our previous conversation. Potential government overreach. As we discussed, anytime you have software or technology being implemented in a piece of hardware that doesn't have any of that typically, not only do you have the possibility of it being hacked, but now it can also be controlled by the government. Because think about it, when you legally purchase a firearm, okay, you are required to fill out certain documents stating that the firearm now belongs to you, and background checks occur. Whatever your laws are in your state, there's a certain amount of red tape that occurs that the government is now, one way or the other, aware that you own this firearm. I would liken this to a very similar situation that we're experiencing right now. And I think you and I have talked about this before. When it comes to Texas, California, in the heat of the summer, they've both, and other states, they have said, don't use your air conditioning because it's putting too much strain on our power grid, and we need everybody to help. Now, it has also been taken a step further, and they have shut down houses' air conditioning. The potential for government overreach in the use of electronics, biometric scans, smart technology, and firearms, it just oozes government interference and the possibility of them being able to just say, you know what, you, law-abiding citizen, no longer have access to a functioning firearm because we say so.
We've got this great little segue here from technology and convenience invading our privacy and our Second Amendment rights and our security. I'm going to interrupt that with, we're going to feature some people here. If you are already a Den member, I'm sure you've by now heard of the YouTube channels Langley Outdoors Academy and the channel Guns and Gadgets. They are incredible gun to a Liberty News YouTube channels. They give daily updates on a whole slew of different information. LOA does a lot of stuff. I really love his style. Guns and Gadgets just seems to have a lot of insider information, and they are both just really based. So I've got links down in the description to them. Again, if you are Den members, you are most likely already familiar with those channels, but I do just want to call them out because they are definitely good YouTube channels to follow. Let's go ahead and get into our second topic. Liberty Safe.
Matt, can I say something really quick before we get into this? You called this one.
I did.
You called it.
I am not a conspiracy theorist. I enjoy a good conspiracy theory. And we're not talking about flat Earth society. We're not talking about we didn't go to the moon. Day one, and I have so much regret in my soul right now that I didn't make a video on this because I caught it and now I can't prove that I caught it. But we're going to move on from there anyway, and I'll learn from my mistake. Liberty Safe. We all know what happened. Back at the end of August 30th, the FBI arrested Nathan Hughes. We're not going to talk about why he was a person of interest, why they went after him, but they arrested him for alleged crimes. Part of the arrest was a search warrant for his home. When they go to his home, they found that he had a Liberty Safe. The FBI called up Liberty Safe and asked for the manufacturer's code, the override, the backdoor code to unlock the safe. Liberty Safe was provided proof of the search warrant, and they handed over the code. No further questions asked. This has blown up on social media, and we all thought it was bad. And then it just kept getting worse, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. And this is another reason I haven't done a video until now on it, because I just wanted to see how much more would take place. First off, I really shouldn't be surprised that these safes with electronic locking mechanisms that have a number pad have a backdoor. And when the FBI went to Liberty Safe and just handed it over, the immediate thought I had was, wait, does that mean they now have a master code for every Liberty Safe ever? Like, a master key for an apartment complex or something like that? That's terrifying. It sounds like every safe has its own individual code, or maybe every batch has its own code, which is still terrifying. And Liberty has painted it, and it's fair to say that this is in case you ever lose your safe code. I have a Liberty Safe. Liberty Safe no longer has the stored master code, and I have changed the master code on my safe. I do like that they've made it easy to change and get rid of that, supposedly. Do we really think they don't still have another backdoor? And it's just... yeah.
Who's to know?
Them. Issue number 2, the FBI has a search warrant that includes being able to search this guy's home. Liberty Safe did not have to give over that backdoor, that master code. The FBI would have needed to get a subpoena, and as I understand it, it's fairly easy to get a subpoena if, the reasoning is sound. But they're like, oh, search warrant? Okay, here you go. Since this whole thing has exploded, and with all the backlash, Liberty Safe has now said, in the future, we will not give out that code for any individual safe unless there is proof of a subpoena. Why wasn't that in place in the first place? Well, because you didn't really think about that beforehand. Aaron, before I go on to the third part of this massive cluster, why don't you talk about the whole, as you understand it, the subpoenas and the search warrant?
A search warrant requires an individual to comply with law enforcement when it comes to access to the area that is being requested to be searched, which in this situation may have included the safe, although it is also my understanding, and this could be wrong, I'm not 100% sure, but when you have an alternate secured location or secured item that requires an additional code or locking mechanism in order to get into, I believe you may require a second search warrant to get into that. The search warrant itself would not have compelled Liberty, a third party, to provide the code to the FBI. Really quick, their initial statement about their policy says that company protocol, this is a quote that I found, company protocol is to provide access codes to law enforcement if a warrant grants them access to the property. Even though they're not required to, they're just like, yeah, I mean, if there's a warrant, they call, we give it to them. Liberty has since backpedaled on that policy and now says that they will only give federal officials access to customers' safes after receiving a subpoena instead of giving it based solely off of a valid search warrant, which is how it should have been the entire time.
But wait, there's more! With all the crap that started flying because of Liberty Safe, people started doing some digging into Liberty Safe. And this is where my conspiracy theory came. Because very quickly it was discovered, and I'm going to pull up a list here, and I'll actually put it down in the lower banner here.
Oof.
Liberty Safe's parent company has a very interesting track record. That track record being donating money to very liberal politicians, specifically gun control advocates. I'm going to list off just some of the names that they are top donors for. Tim Ryan, Ohio. Maggie Hassan, New Hampshire. If I mispronounce any of these, I'd say I'm sorry, but given I don't care because you don't respect my rights as an American. Maggie Hassan or whatever, New Hampshire. Susan Wild, Pennsylvania. Angie Craig, Minnesota. That just sounds like Angie's List for some reason. Catherine Cortez Masto.
It's because of the combination of Angie's List and Craigslist.
Yup. Catherine Cortez Masto, Nevada. John Fetterman, PA. And which John Fetterman? Because we have about 7. Haley Stevens, Michigan. Raphael Warnock, Georgia. Oof. Steve Irwin, not the crocodile hunter. Steve Irwin, PA.
He did.
RIP. David, Rhode Island. Mandela Barnes, Wisconsin. Mark Kelly, Arizona. Now, as soon as this list came out, I'm like, well, I know exactly why Liberty's given all this money to all these liberals that want to take away our rights or want these gun sense laws, these sensible gun laws. They're looking to make a buck. They're looking to make money. Mm-hmm. I said they want sensible gun laws to pass because sensible gun laws in this day and age, because more and more laws are being struck down as unconstitutional. Well, there's nothing in the Second Amendment that says that those firearms, which they have a constitutional right to own and carry, when they're not carried, there's nothing that says they can't be ordered to be kept in a secure storage device, aka a safe. Let's make it a law that they have to be secured in a safe. Well, crap, we're a safe company. We really can make a lot of money here. I called this on day one, just this past week, or maybe it was last Friday. A bill was introduced in the House of Representatives to require all guns be stored in a safe when not being used. It's going to fail, especially in the House. I think it was the House. Maybe it was the Senate. Again, I've been out of the loop. It's been a very busy week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, month.
You're telling me that because all of our Congress people are so above board that after all these people start buying gun safes, Liberty being one of the major gun safe manufacturers in the United States, because our Congress people are so above board, they're not going to take a single dime from any of these corporations that constantly are giving them kickbacks for requiring legislation that requires citizens to
You're
purchase
asking
their
if
product,
they're not going to take a kickback. They've already they got paid up front. They're probably going to take even more. Are you kidding me? This is the left is always complaining about the gun lobby. What about the anti-gun lobby? Every town, March for Our Lives. This bullcrap. Liberty Safe is literally an anti-gun lobby now. What you have done is disgusting. You sell yourselves as being proponents of the Second Amendment, of personal individual freedom, of liberty. What you are actually doing is profiting on the naivety, I didn't say that right, but we're going to go with it, of the people that actually think that there is a company out there that actually is on the side of the people. You are profiting off of that and turning that money against them. I think this is probably as good a place to end this episode as any. My blood pressure's up. I still have a little bit of bourbon to finish off here. Aaron, I'm sure you would like to get to sleep.
Matt, I think you've still got a last shot to fire.
You're right. We did a kind of an accidental soft launch of this last episode when Aaron was talking about just try and stay motivated, get to gym and work on your personal fitness even when you're not motivated. And we're calling it kind of the last shot here. One of the things that's always stuck with me is if you've got something you want to do it. And this isn't like the Nike just do it. This is one of those things where if you've got something you really, really want to do, something that's edifying, like a trip, if you want to go see something, you want to go to a museum, you want to go see something in the world, as long as you are financially stable enough to do it, don't put it off. There are always going to be a million reasons not to do something. But in the end, you're going to have nothing but regret if you don't do it. We only have so much time on this earth, and we need to take advantage of it.
I think you make a really good point. If I can jump in on your last shot here, I saw something the other day that said that one of the worst things that somebody can ever say is, I don't know how. The only thing that's holding you back from doing what you want to do is you.
This whole idea has really been driven home recently. A couple of my friends have lost loved ones really young or way too soon. And there's a really good country song right now by Cody Johnson, Till You Can't. And it really, really drives home. Just stop putting off things that you want to do out of fear because you think you can't. Stop allowing yourself to make excuses to put off things that you want to do or need to do, and just go do them. You will not regret them. And if it doesn't go the way that you hope it does, usually it's going to result in the thought that, you know what, I gave it my shot. We're really enjoying the bullet points video series that we're doing here. We can't wait till October. Hopefully we'll be able to give some better news, bring some good news to the gun community. Maybe we'll get something on that whole pistol brace rule. But, only time will tell. The gun culture is under constant attack, and I think it's imperative that we have shows like, what to sound narcissistic here, what we're doing, but like what Langley Outdoors Academy is doing, what Guns and Gadgets, what a whole slew of other gun channels are doing. We need to have this as a community so we know that the fight is still being fought. That's going to do it for this video, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel. Comment, sound off down in the comment section. We'd love to hear from y'all, your thoughts and your ideas for upcoming videos. As always, don't take life too seriously.
And make it a great day.